It's the main event before the 2026 draft. The NFL has descended upon Indianapolis for this week's Combine. Which superstars will work out on the field, and who has the biggest opportunity to help their stock? We will tell you all we know tonight. 2 weeks from today, the free agent negotiating window will officially be open. And Greg Rosenthal has a surprise name atop his list of those set to hit the market. We will break down Greg's rankings and add some other names who could become available as soon as this week. The competition committee also meeting here in Indy, and perhaps most notable is what they're not going to do. NFL executive Troy Vincent joins the show tonight to discuss the catch rule, potential changes to replay, and more. Welcome inside with the insiders at the Combine, alongside Judy Batista and Ian Rappaport. I am Tom Pelissero. Judy and I have been here in frigid Indy since Sunday, and we're all just amazed that Ian somehow was able to join us.
I went from New York to Tampa to Atlanta to Indy, landed at 1:30 last night, and feel really good. Really good.
The best really news for everyone involved is that this stadium and most of the city actually climate controlled, because 3 nights away, out on that field right now, you will have some of those defensive linemen and linebackers out there for their workouts. And there's a lot of other big names that are going to be set to work out later on this week. Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, I am told, is going to participate in drills, likely will run a 40-yard dash as well, holding steady at number 2 on Daniel Jeremiah's list of the top 50 prospects. Latest version out right now at NFL.com. Ohio State edge Arvell Reese also is going to work out, currently number 4 in DJ's rankings, one of the fearsome defenders in all of college football. He likely is going to run a 40 as well. His teammate Sonny Styles, big rangy linebacker, going to do basically everything here in Indianapolis. He's going to weigh in at close to a little over 240 pounds. And from what I understand, if we're talking about one guy in the performance they put on in the testing out here in Indy, it could well be Sonny Styles. You can catch all of the action live on NFL Network over the next 4 days. That's right. Kicks off on Thursday, continues Friday. The big session we're all looking forward to every year. Running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. That one starts at Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Meanwhile, across this city, we got a lot of other business getting done, and that included the first, let's say, semi-official franchise tag of this offseason. Ian, the deadline is still 8 days away, but Atlanta's made a decision on Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, they certainly have. Sources say that the Atlanta Falcons are planning to franchise tag Kyle Pitts, the second likely tag that we know. Obviously, George Pickens from the Cowboys, we've known that for some time. This is going to be a little more than, let's say, somewhere between $15 and $16 million. It's a fascinating one for Kyle Pitts, because if you had asked a couple years ago, he was kind of injury-plagued. He was inconsistent. Had a breakout year last year, becoming the players that the Atlanta Falcons thought he could be, locking him in at least for next year with the hope of doing a long-term deal for Pitts.
Plenty of deal-making to be done across this city over the next several days here. The Cowboys got one done before they came to Indianapolis, agreeing to terms over the weekend on a 3-year, $24 million deal with running back Javonte Williams. He gets $16 million guaranteed, according to our Ian Rappaport. Stephen Jones, Cowboys executive, spoke today about the potential use of their franchise tag on George Pickens and more.
And then Pickens, of course, leaning toward the franchise tag. We'll finalize that here over the coming week or 10 days, and then we'll go from there. We want Pickens here, think the world of him, want him here, love him. And I think he wants to be here, so all that's a plus.
You've put guys on the tag before, and they've been to everything. Pollard, Schultz,
yeah,
even Dak, D-Law, I think, as well.
Yeah, we've had people play under the tag, and then we've made deals with people, that have a tag and can go either way. And so we'll just, continue to, really analyze the situation and see what's next.
When you put the tag on a guy, do you wonder, will they be at the off-season stuff? Will they be at mini camp? Is that
it crosses your mind. A lot of guys who we've tagged, participated in everything. Dak leading the way, and he played under 2 of them, so he never missed anything. Hopefully that'll be the case here.
Would it be advantageous to get it done before July? I'm talking about Pickens.
I wouldn't put any time frame.
But considering
once you have a tag, and we know George is going to be here. And that's where we are. We want to fix this defense. And we feel really good about the offensive side of the ball now that we got Javonte done and we know we'll have George back. So we feel really good about that side of the ball. I think this is obviously, we've spent a lot of time on it already in the offseason, revamping the defensive coaching staff, and now we'll, take the next steps, which are to improve, the personnel on that side of the ball.
Of course, one thing that would help the Cowboys rebuild that defense, Judy, is not having a $28 million rock on their cap for George Pickens on the franchise tag for the foreseeable future. But setting that aside, you were there when Stephen Jones spoke with reporters. What were your key takeaways?
Well, first of all, he was very definitive about George Pickens. I know our cut line said they're leaning toward the franchise tag. He also basically said, we're going to get that wrapped up in the next few days or so.
So
that's definite. Then he talked a lot about revamping the defense. That was really the theme once you got past George Pickens he said, we know we were historically bad on the defense and that we've got to get better. And you heard him make the point, we've already done a lot of work on the defensive coaching staff. And now we have to do a lot of work on the defensive roster. So that is clearly going to be a focus. He said free agency, they're going to be working free agency, obviously in the draft. That's clearly the focus of the rest of their offseason is getting that defense back to some point of where it needs to be. When he said, we know we were historically bad, I thought, that is finally the admission that they were reluctant to make all during the season.
Well, what we've seen is the Cowboys sort of acknowledge past mistakes, not just the firing of Matt Eberflus right at the end of the season, but also the Cowboys have been seemingly reactive with contracts over the last couple of years, obviously waiting to the last minute to do so many. Doing Javonte Williams before the Combine, to me, was noteworthy because it shows how aggressive they're going to be in keeping their good players. The other one, in time, you kind of mentioned it, the George Pickens tag is a lot. And they have been, and this is something that Stephen Jones and I talked about 2 Decembers ago, before the Micah Parsons trade even became a thing, was how cognizant they are of being top-heavy at various positions, just having a ton of money for their great players. Pickens is going to cost $28, and if they do a long-term deal, it's going to be more. Is this something where they say, you know what, we love Pickens, we love the value, we love the player, spreading that money out on defense and trading Pickens makes more sense? I wonder what traction they get on that and what direction that goes into the offseason.
Certainly, anytime you're tagging a player, there's a lot of different directions it can go. But again, to reiterate, if you do tag the player immediately, even before he signs the tender, that full franchise tag number sits on your salary cap. A new deal, a multi-year contract would lower it substantially, but in the short term, you're stuck carrying that number, which can affect some of the other things that you can do through the course of free agency. Big week for a lot of the fluid situations across the NFL. Big week here in Indianapolis for the Raiders and Maxx Crosby, who have been having conversations about Crosby's future. If there's a time to talk about a potential trade, it is this week in Indianapolis. I would expect, Ian, Crosby's representatives and the Raiders to meet. You also know the other 31 teams are all here. Certain people are going to be approaching John Spytek. Everyone will get a better sense of what the market would be, and you would certainly anticipate it'll be a very strong market if the Raiders are willing to move on from there.
I think it's going to be, we talked about the Micah Parsons trade before. I wonder if it's going to be a similar market. That you did a good job on the Rich Eisen show of kind of explaining all this and on Good Morning Football this morning as well. This has several factors here. The timing is interesting because Maxx Crosby underwent surgery to repair his meniscus, not going to be fully healthy, probably for at least several weeks, likely several months. Does the team pull a trade knowing that the physical would be more of a projection than anything else? And then you're right. I mean, what Indianapolis is about, besides watching the players run in the field behind us, is walking the hallways and bars and restaurants and running into people. I would imagine that Crosby's agents, C.J. LeBoy and Doug Hendrickson, and Raiders general manager John Spytek are going to get to have all the conversations they want, to have all the information they want on what could be out there before we realize or learn, is Maxx Crosby going to stay?
I just go back to that John Spytek press conference early January where he was asked directly, is Maxx Crosby untouchable? And he would not say he was untouchable, right? He gave answers about how much he admired him and how he knew he wasn't happy not playing at the end of the season, and he really respected that. He said all of really nice stuff, but wouldn't say he is untouchable. And I am curious, when we get a sense of what the conversations here are like and what other teams are hearing, is that what other teams are going to hear too? That he is not untouchable, that he is available? Because that obviously, that's the kind of stuff that happens here at the Combine, right? Things pick up steam here.
We have focused a lot on what Maxx Crosby wants, but on some level, there's also the calculus of, are we a team that's competing in the next year or two with Maxx Crosby? If we're not, does it make more sense right now to max out, no pun intended, the compensation that you can get in order to build this thing the right way moving forward? Also a big week here for Daniel Jones and the Colts, who have been in negotiations about a multi-year contract to keep Jones in Indianapolis. The Colts want Jones in Indy. Jones wants to be in Indy. They basically have one more week to hammer out a deal, because if they can't, Judy, next Tuesday, March 3rd, is the deadline, and you would certainly think it's a strong option, barring that multi-year deal, for them to use either the franchise or transition tag on Jones.
Yeah, first of all, can we stop running this particular play?
I was just thinking about how horrific that was.
I don't want to watch this anymore, the Achilles tear. Look, it behooves both sides. They both want him to be here long term. It behooves both sides to get a deal done in the next few days, because then the franchise tag is available if they want to use it on Alec Pierce, who, if he is not tagged, is certainly going to have a strong market in free agency himself. So this would give them options. This is almost the same exact scenario that the Giants were in with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley a few years ago. They ended up keeping both of them, Saquon on the franchise tag and Daniel Jones got his long-term deal. But it would help all sides, all parties, if they can get this deal done now in the coming days.
It does really bring me back to those Giants conversations about Saquon or Daniel Jones. Who are they going to get the deal done? The thing that I keep thinking about is it actually helps Daniel Jones if he's able to come to a long-term deal that he likes, that he deserves. I would imagine it probably looks like his old long-term deal with the Giants, something in the 40s, but it actually behooves him to get a deal done, because then they'll get to keep Alec Pierce on the franchise tag. If they have to tag Daniel Jones, Pierce might be the highest paid free agent, I don't know, of all of them. I mean, he's going to be a very, very hot free agent receiver. You're looking at probably a number that starts with a 3. Are they able to keep both? I don't know that they are. So it actually makes sense if they could do a long-term deal with Daniel and then tag Pierce. But to do that, a lot of things would have to fall into place.
Certainly, those are some of the top free agents that are on the market pending the use of those tags. Our Greg Rosenthal, though, in his ranking at NFL.com, his usual top 101 list, had a very notable name, Malik Willis. Not often do you see a top free agent list with a guy who is not a starter at the top, but also very rarely do you see the type of production on downfield passing, the efficiency, the elusiveness that Malik Willis showed in Green Bay. You talk about the number for Alec Pierce, Ian, maybe beginning with a 3. Don't rule out the possibility Malik Willis gets a deal that begins with a 3.
I could see it.
Tons more to come here at the Combine, including, you guessed it, it's that time of year, the tush push. But it's really the fact that we're not talking about the tush push, except me right now. We'll explain, and so will Troy Vincent from the NFL. We'll also look at some of the very fluid quarterback situations across the NFL. Where will Kirk Cousins be in 2026? What about Tua and Kyler and Geno? We'll give you the best answers we got coming up on the Insiders at the Combine.
Here's Jackson Smith and Jigba.
He's a stud. Polished route runner, just understands how to use leverage, set up defenders. He can make those combat catches if necessary. Again, he's going to be quicker than fast, create separation, and then tracks the ball. Here he is making a difficult Willie Mays catch over the shoulder. Look at that. Okay. It's pristine.
PhD in route running, huh?
That's what you want to see right there.
Whatever happened to that guy? JSN, as we know him now, you know, I feel like I kind of remember him. Super Bowl superstar, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Up for a big-time contract extension, could end up being the highest paid receiver in the NFL. He's come a long way from what we saw here, which is basically exactly the guy that everybody thought. God, I love hearing those clips of Jeremiah just being like, that guy is a stud. No doubt someone these Seahawks want to reward and be potentially the highest paid player at his position, although there's going to be some competition for that. So who is the next JSN? Carnell Tate's going to throw his hat in the ring as the new highest rated receiver from Daniel Jeremiah's Top 50 Prospects 2.0. 10 receivers made the list. Makai Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston. You guys can all read. Omar Cooper Jr., we saw create one of the catches of the year. Lot to look forward to here as we watch these guys perform. We are going to see all of it. Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. It starts. Defensive linemen, linebackers, they were going to see some freaks there. DBs, tight ends on Friday, and there's the fun Saturday one, Tom. Running backs, quarterbacks, and receivers. Sunday is a little bit of a ghost town here. The offensive linemen run the 40.
What are you saying, Ian?
I'm going to be, because they were all wearing these, anyway. I'm going to be here watching. How many other people will? I don't know. Maybe not everyone.
Ty Simpson's going to be throwing on Saturday, the Alabama quarterback. If you're not getting Simpson and you're not getting Fernando Mendoza, which basically rules out everybody except the Raiders, these are some of the options you're looking for free agent quarterbacks. Malik Willis, who Greg Rosendahl has the number one free agent overall, along with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, and Joe Flacco. And then we've got some other names of players who could become available at the position. Kirk Cousins, based upon his contract, will be released either March 11th or March 12th. But how things proceed with Tua, with Kyler, with Geno, as well as Justin Fields, Judy, these are moving parts. I would say it's fair to say the expectation in league circles is that all those players will end up switching teams. Ultimately, who are you most intrigued by on that list?
Well, there's a lot of drama with those veteran quarterbacks, Tua, Kirk Cousins, but I am most intrigued by Malik Willis's future because to me, he is not a short-term answer. He's not an older veteran stopgap kind of guy. He is still a young, ascending player. Is he the next Sam Darnold? Is he the guy who has rejuvenated his career and is now going to land someplace and really take off? He played so well last year in relief of Jordan Love. I'm really curious to see where he lands. Certainly, it feels like the Miami Dolphins, who are young and trying to rebuild and have the Green Bay connections, that feels like the natural fit. But let's see, because there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, and there are a lot of teams who need long-term answers at quarterbacks, not just 1 or 2 year answers.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a long-term answer, like you can certainly argue that Malik Willis has done enough based on his pedigree, based on the kind of athlete he is, and based on the kind of player he is, that he deserves that. The one I'm really intrigued with is Kyler Murray, because I think everyone assumes that the Arizona Cardinals are going to move on from Kyler Murray. I do the same thing, although, frankly, we have not heard Mike LaFleur, the new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, say that, so there is a possibility that he says, well, we're paying for him anyway. Maybe we're just going to keep him and figure it out. But there have been times, if the Cardinals do move on from Kyler Murray, in whatever form that is, whether that's a trade or whether that's just a straight release, which no doubt is what he would want, there have been many times in his career we have seen and thought Kyler Murray is a franchise quarterback. He has been up and down. He sort of got replaced last year after his injury. That didn't go right. Got hurt and got replaced. But is he a franchise guy? There is going to be someone who's going to be like, I will make that guy what he should be. And I'm curious where that ends up.
Well, think about it this way, too, because a lot of these quarterbacks we're talking about, including Tua and Kyler and Geno, all have guaranteed money on their deals. This is not regarded as a top-end quarterback class. Right. The class of 2027 is. And so if you're a team that right now is trying to figure out what are we going to do, and you're not willing to chuck a dart at a day 3 quarterback and hope for the best, maybe this is a year you take your shot on this, Judy, and you sign a Tua or a Kyler or a Geno if they're not traded for the minimum or very close to it, and take a shot on a guy who we have seen have enough pedigree that to be drafted really high in the cases of Kyler or Tua, or a guy who has won a lot of games in the league, which Geno Smith has in the second act of his career. I have no doubt that all these players are going to have options. It's not going to be the same teams for everyone, but as we're talking about the Falcons, the Jets, the Vikings, we'll see what the Browns ultimately do as they structure their room. There's a lot of teams. Arizona, of course, needs a starter as well. There's a lot of teams that are going to need something at the position, even Miami as well, in the short term.
Right, and that is why I also feel like Kirk Cousins belongs in that block, too, of guys who are going to get a chance to start because there are so many teams that need a starting quarterback. And you're right. Next year, if next year pans out in the draft, next year is going to be, we think, a blockbuster quarterback class. And so do you go, if you're not a team that is rebuilding and is starting over and just wants a young guy to grow with, do you go with a stopgap measure like any one of these veteran quarterbacks and say, this guy can start for us, he can win some games for us, and then we'll see what the draft looks like. Like, there's going to be a lot of that when we get to free agency. This is going to be a very active group because there's all of these people are going to be moving around.
Well, and also, I mean, kind of like you mentioned, I remember when Russell Wilson went to the Steelers, it was like the greatest deal of all time, right? It was the minimum and a starting quarterback. And at the time, I don't know how many of those we've seen. We could have 4 of them this year or more. I mean, if Kyler's released, if Tua's released, Geno,
Kyler, and then potentially Justin Fields as well, which may be harder to sell that being a starting quarterback. But this is exactly the risk factor we're talking about, which is you can pay $20 million, $25, maybe more for the small sample size of Malik Willis, or you go, you know what, let's go with the lowest risk option because whether you're trading for one of these guys and the other team's eating most of the salary, or you're getting the guy who got released for the minimum because the rest is subject to offsets.
Right.
There is a balance there. It'll be fascinating to see how these 7, 8, 9 teams that don't have a clear starting quarterback navigate waters that are going to be absolutely fluid over the next couple of weeks here. Tons more to get to tonight on this show, live from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Yes, we're going to keep showing you the tush push because guess what? You're going to see it again in 2026. Troy Vincent, NFL executive, joins us after this to talk about the competition committee deliberations on the insiders at the Combine.
Look at it. And you mentioned easy.
No strain.
It's just nice and easy for them. Fast guys are fast.
4.24. That number's in the record books forever.
Dree Archer, and he can run.
He's putting the flash in Golden Flash at 4.26.
The wide receiver, John Ross. Wow.
I think Chris Johnson should be sitting up in his chair right now. 4.22.
No way.
Here he goes. Oh! You're looking at the fastest man in the history of the Combine.
Keep going. He might just keep running right out of the stadium.
Oh, man, I remember being in the building for that one. There was a buzz here when he started running, and the place absolutely erupted when Xavier Worthy set the new Combine record for fastest 40-yard dash. Got a great Instagram video out of it, just capturing the whole thing. Did the screen, did a celebration on the field, captured the crowd. What's that?
Blurry.
It was a little blurry because he was far away, but I'm just saying the atmosphere was great. Oh, also I was far away. Anyway, is anyone going to break Xavier Worthy's record this year? I have no idea, but it's going to be really fun to watch. Judy?
New today, it was at this time last year that we got the first indication there would be a push to ban the tush push. That effort failed last season, and there is not going to be another effort this season. The deadline has passed. There are no proposals to ban the tush push, although there has been conversation about not allowing aiding the runner. I caught up with Troy Vincent, Executive Vice President for the league, about competition committee discussions. Troy, at this time last year, we started conversation about the tush push and whether it would be banned. It wasn't banned last year, but where do the conversations stand right now about aiding the runner and the tush push?
So we had good discussion around it yesterday, and it wasn't necessarily the push area that we focused in on as an officiating group. It was the lifting, the pulling, was lifting the player off the ground, and really got into the appetite for when do you want forward progress to stop. Is the runner, his shoulder pads being parallel to the line of scrimmage, to out of bounds or line of scrimmage, when do you stop? And that was really because in some cases, if you blow it too early, now you're getting the question of why did you blow it? There was still momentum going. So we actually spent quite a bit of time there, not on the actual push element, but the lifting up off the ground and carrying. Mm-hmm. So, in the term, it was how do we avoid that scrum, that look? And so there was discussion, quite a bit of discussion there. Most of our discussion yesterday was around the catch, no catch. Mm-hmm. Which we felt like it warranted it. You had two situations that most talk about. You had the Rams game with Devontae, and then you had the Buffalo-Denver game. And really explaining there was quite a bit of difference, but we did a poor job. I would just say we just didn't do a good job of explaining the difference. One was already a runner. The other one was trying to become, catch the ball and finish the process of a catch. and then being able to explain and talk through their language that we need to incorporate, as we say, maintaining the catch through the ground. So that was one. We'll follow back up with that this afternoon with the committee looking at language. Is there a tweak? The officials were very clear. They were really clear on both of those calls. One was a runner. He was down, Adams, and then the Cook play. Someone didn't survive the catch. The defender ended up doing that. So good discussion there.
So that's more a question of maybe tweaking the language, but not a rules change,
It wasn't a rule change. That's one of those clarification.
Okay.
But again, it was good, healthy discussion. Also, the catch, no catch. We had two different, and then the replay assist. If you remember the likely touchdown catch, that was ruled, after review, incomplete pass. In Baltimore, and then you had the Aaron Rodgers play, which was a big one, that the Baltimore Steelers game where was Aaron down. We looked at that. We'll look at that again today. So good discussion there.
Kickoff, which you changed last year and had great results, got lots of returns out of it, but the injury rate climbed a little bit for the receiver, the kickoff receiver, and the tackler. The special teams coaches have been in those meetings. What kind of tweaks might we see, or might you just leave it alone and see what happens?
So when you look at those, say, 32 or 34, let's just say, concussions or injuries that occurred on that particular play, when you examine the video, a lot of those injuries occurred, helmet hit the ground. There might have been two. There were two where you had double concussions on one play. But, shoulder force, there were many that we just said, we don't even know where it came from. Like, what happened? Was somebody injured prior? But the discussion's been around, okay, how do we still protect the off returner? And then the guy is always, whether it's the L2, R2, L4, or R5, somebody's coming free. And should there be an adjustment with the floater, maybe going to 5-4-2? So there's been some discussion, and obviously the special team coaches meet tomorrow, and they'll come back with potentially some additional options. We didn't get into onside, which we need to, should there be any adjustments there. But it's really been good diving into, because you're talking about 53,000 yards that were included back in the game. You look at, return yardage, and that play was dynamic. It changed how people were, strategizing in the game, after score, so on and so forth. But being able to really examine where injuries happening, and can we put something in place to avoid some of those injuries that we see.
The last one is about potentially using replay assist to put a flag down for personal conduct, that kind of something that would cause an injury to a player safety related rule. Where is that in the conversation? Because that would be a pretty significant step for officiating to put that in.
So that's one that we'll dive in a little bit this evening and tomorrow. And there's about 3 or 4 categories that we feel like potentially, based off of our success in the replay assist bucket, should we start including personal fouls? Are there certain personal fouls that, again, I'm not sure if the membership, or at least the committee, I'm not sure if they're there with putting a flag on the field. You can see there's some reluctance there. But if there's a flag on the field with some of the personal fouls, to go and examine those.
So what they're really looking at is a specific non-football act that could lead to ejection. That is sort of the gateway to getting into using replay review to put a flag on the field. Things like if they don't see a player throw a punch in a game, if they don't see it on the field, they could use replay assist and say, get that guy, eject him, rather than having to go back and then suspend him the next week.
Because currently, if a penalty is not called, New York cannot get involved with it.
Correct. And so we saw that with a player who stomped on another player this year, and then they had to go back. They didn't see it. They couldn't flag it, so they had to suspend him the next week. The idea is they would be able to call down and say, that guy should be out of the game. They would eject him, and then you don't have to go through the entire act of suspending a player. They feel like that is the gateway because there is still a whole lot of concern about the idea of using replay to put flags on the field.
One thing that it seems to me, and this is just my feel, is it really seems like the NFL would rather eject a player during the game and say, this is your penalty, rather than he plays and then the next week you suspend him. I mean, there's a lot that goes into suspension. There's the appeal. There's the publicity. It's like ejection is like, you have been penalized. It is over. It seems like it's a direction that the NFL wants to go. Use the word gateway. That really does seem to be the way it's going. I mean, the technology is getting better. The camera angles, the use of AI. I mean, there's all sorts of tools that the NFL can now use to make the game better, safer, but also better officiated. And it seems like they are sort of wading into that water of going, if you see it at home, we should be able to do something about it. And, embracing sort of the future is going to be a pretty big topic here.
It's also an extremely slippery slope because what we're talking about, if there's a non-football act like when you see someone get stomped on, that is still objective. That would fit the objective criteria.
Yeah.
Where the competition committee has never wanted to go down that road is substituting one person's judgment for another on subjective calls. But even things like catch, no catch, and the fact that we're talking about that again is kind of a throwback. They felt like they had resolved it. Part of the issue is you're having plays getting overturned that people at home don't look at and say, that's obviously a missed call. Jerry Seaman, who was involved decades ago, always used to say, we'll never criticize anyone for letting it stand as called on the field. It seems like the NFL's gone a little bit further in some of those mechanisms to overturn reviewable plays. That's going down a road that is potentially problematic.
They also feel like they have to make sure the language of the rule, the way it is written, reflects what you can see when you're going frame by frame, because they know that is how we are seeing it at home, how fans are seeing it, and also how officials can see it now. So there might be language changes, but not the spirit of the rule.
Isaiah Likely, we'll find out in a couple of weeks where he's playing in 2026, but odds are, just based on history, a couple of his catches this year will be subject to that. A lot more to come here from Indianapolis, just 3 days away from on-field drills beginning at the NFL Combine. But guess what? The action's already rolling. Remember when Myles Garrett was out there? I do. If you've forgotten, stick around. A little bit of that. A walk down memory lane next on the Insiders at the Combine.
All right, here's Garrett.
Myles moves better than a lot of these smaller guys.
Myles Garrett going through the drills. So good. Got 41-inch vertical.
The straight club and then the inside arm over top.
He's violent with his hands.
Look at that.
Oh, my word. 4.64.
Hello, Cleveland.
The NFL Combine, presented by Microsoft Copilot, begins this Thursday with the defensive line and linebackers. Catch it all on NFL Network and streaming with NFL Plus. Subscription required for NFL Plus. Visit plus.nfl.com for terms. The Arizona Cardinals announced that the inaugural Cardinals Climb Hike for Special Needs raised over $2 million for Arizona's special needs community. Over 3,500 individuals participated in the Cardinals Climb across nearly 200 teams. The $2 million total resulted from more than 8,000 individual donations. Fundraising for the event continues until March 10th. Donations can be made at www.cardinalsclimb.com.
The Miami Dolphins announced that the Dolphins Cancer Challenge has surpassed a historic $100 million raised, with 100% of funds supporting life-saving cancer research and care at Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center, part of the University of Miami Health System and the Miller School of Medicine. This announcement comes in the lead-up to DCC 16, which will take place this Saturday, February 28th at Hard Rock Stadium. Now in its 16th year, the DCC has grown to become the largest annual fundraiser in the NFL, uniting tens of thousands of participants from South Florida and throughout the country to run, walk, and ride in support of innovative research, access to care, and hope for cancer patients.
From those very important things to a new logo for the Bills. There it is right there. Highmark Stadium. That is a new stadium for the Buffalo Bills, and it is going to be sweet. Covered for fans, real for the players, and there is the logo right there, which I put on Instagram. You should follow me there. Speaking of Instagram, this guy right here, Bradley Bozeman, announced his retirement on the old IG. If you could draw what a longtime NFL center looks like, It is literally Bradley Bozeman. What an excellent career for the well-traveled mauler inside for the Los Angeles Chargers. Meanwhile, from Indianapolis, we are going to be here all week, hanging out in the bars and restaurants and trying to dodge traffic like those really, really fast cars right there. We'll be back.